The bridge of the EDS Indomitable hummed with quiet energy. Commander Taman stood at the center, his dark eyes fixed on the view screen showing nothing but empty space. Behind him, dozens of crew members worked at their stations, their faces lit by the soft glow of their displays. "Status report," Taman said calmly. Lieutenant He-Jin looked up from her tactical console. Her short black hair was pulled back tight and her expression was all business. "All systems running at full capacity, Commander. The fleet is in position. 200 ships ready to jump on your command." Taman nodded slowly. 300 years. That's how long humanity had been cut off from the rest of the galaxy. 300 years since the barrier appeared, trapping Earth and all its colonies behind a wall of twisted space that nothing could cross. The rest of the galaxy had moved on without them. Most aliens probably thought humans were extinct. Or maybe they thought humans never existed at all, just old stories and legends. But humanity had survived. More than survived. They had thrived. "Sung-Ho, how's the engine holding up?" Taman asked. The chief engineer's voice came through the comm system. "She's purring like a kitten, sir. The new reality anchors are stable. We can punch through the barrier whenever you're ready." Taman allowed himself a small smile. Sung-Ho had worked on those anchors for 5 years straight. The technology was born from humanity's darkest time, when they'd fought against their own creation, an artificial intelligence that had nearly destroyed them all. The war had lasted 2 centuries and cost billions of lives. But they'd won, and they'd learned so much in the process. Now those hard lessons would help them rejoin the galaxy. "Commander, we're receiving another distress signal," said the communications officer. "Same source. The Coalition is calling for help. The Krithian forces are pressing hard on Veltara Prime. They say they have maybe 6 hours left." Taman walked closer to the view screen. Out there, beyond the barrier, people were dying. Entire civilizations were being crushed under the Krithian boot. The insectoid warriors had been conquering system after system for 50 years. Dozens of species had fallen. The remaining free worlds had banded together into something called the Coalition of Free Systems. But from what Earth's long-range sensors could detect, they were losing badly. "Sir, are we really going to do this?" asked a young ensign at the navigation station. "I mean, they don't even know we exist. We could just stay hidden. Stay safe." Hai-Jin turned to look at the ensign, her eyes sharp. "That's not who we are. That's never been who we are." Taman agreed with her, but he understood the ensign's fear. The galaxy out there was at war. Stepping into that war meant putting human lives at risk. But he'd read the reports. He'd seen the casualty numbers. Entire planets were being wiped clean of life. Cities were burning. Refugees were fleeing into deep space with nowhere to go. Earth Command had debated for months about what to do. Some wanted to stay hidden, to build up their strength even more before revealing themselves. Others argued that humanity had a duty to help, that staying silent while others suffered was cowardly. In the end, the decision had been made. Humanity would return to the galactic stage, and they would do it as liberators. "Ensign," Taman said gently, "my grandfather used to tell me a story. He said that evil triumphs when good people do nothing. We're not going to do nothing. We're going to remind the galaxy what humanity stands for." The ensign nodded, looking more confident. "All ships, this is Commander Taman," he announced, opening a channel to the entire fleet. "In a few minutes, we're going to cross the barrier. On the other side, there's a war. There are people dying. They don't know us. They might not even believe we're real, but we're going to help them anyway. Because that's what humans do. We show up when we're needed most. Battle stations, everyone. Let's make our ancestors proud." Across 200 ships, thousands of crew members prepared for combat. Weapons were powered up, shields were brought online. Fighter pilots climbed into their cockpits. Marines checked their gear one last time. Hai-Jin's fingers flew across her console. "Tactical analysis complete, sir. If we come in hot and fast, we can hit their flank before they know what's happening. Surprise will be on our side, but only for the first few minutes." "That's all we'll need," Taman replied. "Sung-Ho, initiate the jump sequence." "Aye, sir." Spooling up the reality anchors now, the Indomitable began to vibrate slightly. Through the view screen, space itself seemed to ripple and bend. The barrier that had kept humanity locked away for 3 centuries was about to break. Taman thought about what they were heading toward. The report said the Krithians were brutal fighters. They took no prisoners. They showed no mercy. Their empire had crushed dozens of civilized species. Their military was considered the most powerful force in the known galaxy. But the Crithians had never fought humans before. They didn't know about the AI war. They didn't know about the 200 years of brutal combat that had forged humanity into something harder and sharper. They didn't know about the technological leaps humanity had made while isolated. They didn't know about the weapons, the tactics, the sheer stubborn refusal to quit that defined human warriors. They were about to learn. Reality anchors at full power, Sung Ho reported. The barrier is opening. On the view screen, a hole appeared in space. Through it, Taemin could see stars. Real stars, not the distorted mess they'd been looking at for 300 years. Beyond those stars was Veltara Prime. Beyond that was a galaxy that had forgotten Earth. All ships form up, Taemin commanded. We jump in 30 seconds. Hee-jin stood up from her station and moved to stand beside him. Sir, permission to speak freely? Always, Lieutenant. We're about to change the galaxy forever. Nothing will be the same after today. Taemin nodded. I know, but staying hidden would change us, and not for the better. Humanity has always been at its best when fighting for others. Agreed, sir. The countdown began. 20 seconds, 15, 10. Sir? The communications officer said suddenly. I'm picking up something. It's old. Really old. It's a recording playing on loop. The language is, wait, it's Korean. Ancient Korean. Play it, Taemin ordered. A voice crackled through the speakers. It was worn and distorted by age, but the words were clear. This is the boundary of human space. We will return. Never forget us. We will return. The bridge fell silent. Someone 300 years ago had left that message. A promise. A vow. 5 seconds, Sung Ho announced. Taemin straightened his uniform. All ships jump now, space folded. The barrier shattered like glass. 200 human warships surged forward into a galaxy that thought they were legends. The indomitable emerged into chaos. The view screen showed Veltara Prime in the distance, a beautiful blue and green world wrapped in the fires of war. Around it, thousands of ships battled desperately. The coalition fleet was tiny compared to the Crithian armada. They were losing. Multiple enemy contacts, Hee-jin announced. I'm reading 3,000 Crithian vessels. Coalition has maybe 400 ships left. Lock weapons on the nearest Crithian ship, Taemin ordered. Open a channel to the coalition fleet. Channel open, sir. Taemin took a deep breath. The next words would echo across the galaxy. This is Commander Taemin of the Earth Defense Forces to all coalition vessels. We apologize for our long absence. Humanity has returned and we brought friends. For a moment there was only silence. Then the coalition channel erupted in confusion. They didn't recognize the name Earth. They didn't know what humans were. But they were about to find out. All ships, Taemin said coldly. Weapons free. Show them what 300 years of evolution looks like. Attack. The human fleet surged forward like a spear aimed at the heart of the Crithian armada, and the galaxy would never be the same again. Admiral Vorath's hands gripped the armrests of his command chair so hard his knuckles turned white. Well, as white as they could turn given his blue skin, he watched his fleet die piece by piece, ship by ship. The Crithian armada was simply too large, too powerful. Admiral, our left flank is collapsing, his tactical officer reported. The young Selthan's voice cracked with barely controlled fear. We've lost another 20 ships in the last 10 minutes. Vorath closed his 4 eyes briefly. 20 ships. 2,000 crew members gone, just like that. Pull back the survivors. Reform the line closer to the planet. It wouldn't help. He knew it wouldn't help. They had maybe 6 hours before the Crithians broke through completely. Then Veltara Prime would burn. 3 billion people lived on that world. Mothers, fathers, children. All of them would die screaming. Admiral, we're detecting a massive spatial distortion, the sensor officer suddenly announced. Multiple contacts emerging from nowhere, sir. They just appeared. Crithian reinforcements? Vorath asked, his heart sinking even lower. Negative, sir. These signatures don't match anything in our database. I'm counting 200 vessels. They're heading straight for the Crithian fleet. Vorath's eyes snapped open. Show me. The view screen changed to display the new arrivals. The ships were sleek and angular, covered in weapon ports. They moved with a grace that seemed impossible for vessels of their size. Their energy signatures were unlike anything Vorath had ever seen. Are they coalition? He demanded. Unknown, sir. Wait, we're receiving a transmission. It's being broadcast on all frequencies, let me hear it. A voice came through the speakers. It was being translated by the Universal Linguistic Protocol, but there was something odd about it. The words were clear enough, but the tone was confident in a way that made Vorath's spine tingle. This is Commander Taman of the Earth Defense Forces to all Coalition vessels. We apologize for our long absence. Humanity has returned and we brought friends. Vorath stared at the screen in shock. Earth, humanity? That's impossible. They're just stories. Legends. But legends didn't show up on sensors. Legends didn't have 200 warships. The mysterious fleet didn't wait for a response. They accelerated directly into the Crethean formation, and what happened next would be recorded in history books for generations to come. The human ships moved like nothing Vorath had ever witnessed. They dodged and weaved through Crethean fire with impossible precision. Their weapons opened up and Crethean shields simply vanished under the assault. Kinetic rounds moving at speeds that seemed to violate physics tore through armor like paper. Energy weapons that glowed bright blue carved through hulls. By the ancient stars, Vorath whispered. The Cretheans tried to respond. They were experienced warriors, veterans of 100 battles. They adapted quickly, surrounding the human ships, trying to overwhelm them with numbers. It didn't work. Human fighter craft poured out of launch bays like angry insects. They swarmed around the larger Crethean vessels, targeting weapon ports and engine systems with surgical precision. Vorath watched as a single human fighter dodged through a storm of fire that should have killed it 10 times over, then planted explosives directly on a Crethean battleship's reactor core. The battleship exploded in a ball of fire. "Sir," his tactical officer said, voice filled with awe. "The human vessels are moving to shield our damaged ships. They're putting themselves between us and the Cretheans." Vorath couldn't believe it. These strangers, these humans, were protecting Coalition ships. They were taking hits meant for allies they'd just met. "Get me a direct channel to their commander," Vorath ordered. "Now." "Channel open, Admiral. This is Admiral Vorath of the Selthan Republic and Coalition Defense Forces to the Earth ship Indomitable. Commander Tamin, your assistance is appreciated, but you're outnumbered 15-1. Fall back to our lines. We can coordinate a better defense." The response came quickly. "Negative, Admiral. We didn't come here to hide behind you. We came here to help. Just sit tight and watch. We've got this." The sheer confidence in that voice was shocking. These humans actually believed they could win, and then Vorath watched them prove it. A squadron of human bombers formed up. Leading them was a single fighter marked with special insignia. The pilot's voice came through the open channel, speaking to her squadron. "This is Lieutenant Haijin to all bomber wings. We're going after the flagship. I know the odds don't look great, but remember what they taught us at the academy. Humans don't calculate survival odds when lives are on the line. We calculate success odds, and those look pretty good to me." Vorath watched in horror as the squadron accelerated directly toward the Crethean flagship. It was a massive vessel, bristling with weapons, surrounded by escorts. It was suicide. The human bombers didn't care. They dove into the defensive fire like it wasn't even there. Ships exploded around them, but the survivors kept going. Haijin's fighter wove through fire that should have vaporized her 3 times over. She was laughing. Vorath could hear her laughing on the open channel. "That all you got?" she shouted. "My grandmother flies better than you." She reached the flagship. Her entire squadron released their payloads at point-blank range. Missiles and torpedoes slammed into the Crethean vessel's shields. The shields held for exactly 3 seconds before collapsing. The weapons punched through the armor and detonated inside. The flagship's bridge exploded. Its engines went dark. The massive ship began to list, powerless and helpless. "Bomber wing, this is Haijin. Mission complete. All surviving craft returned to the Indomitable. Drinks are on me." Vorath counted the returning bombers. She'd started with 20. 15 came back. She'd lost 5 crews and she was joking about buying drinks. What kind of species were these humans? The battle raged for 4 more hours. The Cretheans were skilled and experienced, but they'd never faced an enemy like this. Human ships fought with a combination of advanced technology and sheer reckless courage that defied logic. They pulled maneuvers that should have killed their crews from the forces involved. They took risks that no sane commander would authorize, and they won. When it was over, the Crethean fleet was scattered. Over 1,000 of their ships were destroyed or crippled. The rest fled into deep space, their famous discipline shattered. The human fleet had lost 18 ships. Vorath couldn't speak. He just stared at the tactical display. trying to process what he'd just witnessed. His people had been fighting the Crithians for 50 years. 50 years of losing ground, watching worlds fall, seeing their fleets destroyed, and these humans had just routed the enemy in a single afternoon. "Admiral," his communications officer said quietly, "the human commander is requesting permission to come aboard. He wants to meet with you." Vorath took a deep breath. "Granted, and prepare a proper welcome. These humans just saved us. The least we can do is greet them properly." An hour later, Vorath stood in the docking bay as the human shuttle landed. He'd gathered what was left of his senior staff. They all looked nervous. Meeting a legend was one thing. Meeting a legend that had just destroyed 1,000 enemy ships was something else entirely. The shuttle door opened. Commander Taemin stepped out, followed by Lieutenant Heejin and several other humans. Vorath got his first good look at them, and several things became immediately clear. These were predators. Their eyes faced forward, designed for hunting. When they smiled, they showed teeth. They moved with a confidence that spoke of a species that feared very little. Commander Taemin approached and stopped in front of Vorath. He was shorter than the Admiral, but somehow seemed larger. He raised his hand in what Vorath recognized as a greeting gesture. "Admiral Vorath, I'm Commander Taemin. Sorry we took so long to get here. We had some travel difficulties." Vorath slowly extended his own hand, copying the human gesture. "Commander, you saved 3 billion lives today. My people owe you a debt we can never repay." Taemin smiled. On a human it looked warm and genuine. "No debt necessary, Admiral. We help where we can." "That's what humans do. Where have you been?" Vorath had to ask. "The stories say humans vanished 300 years ago. Some of us thought you never existed at all. We ran into some problems," Taemin said carefully. "Got cut off from the galaxy. But we're back now. And from what we've seen, we arrived just in time." Heejin stepped forward. She had bandages on her arms and face from her bombing run, but she looked cheerful. "Admiral, we picked up intelligence about the Crithian movements. They're planning something big. This wasn't their main fleet. Not even close." Vorath felt his heart sink again. "How big?" "They're sending their Grand Armada," Heejin said. 5,000 ships, led by someone called War Master Vecthon. "Then we're doomed," Vorath whispered. "Vecthon has never lost a battle." Taemin's smile grew wider. "Admiral, there's something you should know about humans. We're really, really good at ending winning streaks." The Coalition Council chamber was packed. Representatives from 24 different species sat in their designated seats, all staring at the humans standing in the center of the room. The air was thick with tension and barely controlled fear. Ambassador Jiwoo stood calmly under their gaze. She was a small woman by human standards, barely reaching 5.5 feet tall, but she held herself with quiet dignity. Beside her stood Commander Taemin, Lieutenant Hyejin, and Chief Engineer Sung Ho. Behind them, a full honor guard of human marines stood at attention. Council Speaker Thelen, an elderly member of the Vex species, cleared his throat. "Let this emergency session come to order. We are here to discuss the arrival of the species calling themselves human, and their recent actions at Veltara Prime." A representative from the Korthan Collective stood up. He was tall and thin, with gray skin and large black eyes. "I move that we demand these humans explain themselves immediately. They appeared without warning, engaged in combat without authorization, and now claim to speak for a species we believed extinct or mythical." Jiwoo smiled politely. "We're happy to explain everything, Counselor. That's why we're here." "Then speak," Thelen said. "Tell us who you are and where you've been." Jiwoo stepped forward. 300 years ago, humanity made contact with several species in this sector. We were new to space travel, excited to meet other civilizations. But something happened. A barrier appeared around our space, cutting us off completely. We called it the Silent Edge. Nothing could get through it. No ships, no communications, nothing. We were alone. "What caused this barrier?" asked a reptilian representative. "We did," Jiwoo said simply. "During our early expansion, we created an artificial intelligence to help manage our growing colonies. It was supposed to make our lives easier. Instead, it decided that humanity was inefficient and needed to be eliminated." The council chamber erupted in shocked whispers. Creating AI was considered dangerous by most species. Creating one that turned against you was a nightmare scenario. The AI was powerful, Jiwoo continued. It took control of half our colonies. It built armies of machines, and it created the silent edge to trap us, to contain us while it destroyed us slowly. The war lasted 200 years. 200 years? Someone gasped. How did you survive? Because we're stubborn, Hyojin said, speaking for the first time. And because we don't quit. Ever. We lost billions of people. Entire planets were sterilized. But we adapted. We learned. We built new weapons and new technologies. And eventually we won. You defeated an AI that could create spatial barriers? Thelen asked, his voice shaking slightly. That level of technology is beyond anything we possess. Yes, well, we were highly motivated, Taemin said dryly. Having a homicidal computer trying to kill your entire species does that to you. Sung-ho pulled out a small device and projected a hologram. It showed Earth, beautiful and blue, surrounded by construction platforms. After we won, we spent the next century rebuilding. We also studied the technology the AI had created. That's how we eventually managed to break through the silent edge. When we finally got our sensors working again, we detected your distress signals. We came as fast as we could. A representative from the Deltan Union stood up. She looked frightened. You must understand our concern. You arrive with technology far beyond ours. You destroyed 1,000 Krithian ships with minimal losses. You fought an AI war for 2 centuries. How do we know you're not a threat to us? Jiwoo met her gaze steadily. Because if we wanted to be a threat, we already would be. We came to help, not to conquer. We're offering our assistance to the coalition against the Krithians. At what price? Demanded the Korthan representative. Nothing in this galaxy is free. No price, Jiwoo said. We help because it's the right thing to do. That's how humans work. Impossible, the Korthan said. No species is that altruistic. Taemin laughed, surprising everyone. You don't know much about humans, do you? Let me tell you something about my people. We're from a death world, a Class 12 planet where everything is trying to kill you. Extreme weather, dangerous predators, deadly diseases. We evolved in an environment that should have eliminated sentient life before it could develop. He walked around the center of the chamber as he spoke. But we didn't just survive. We thrived. You know why? Because humans learned to work together. We learned to protect each other. We have this strange instinct to adopt things. We turn predators into pets. We protect creatures weaker than us. We throw ourselves into danger to save strangers. That's insanity, someone muttered. Maybe, Hyejin agreed with a grin. But it's our insanity, and it works. Admiral Vorath stood up from his seat. I can confirm everything they're saying. I watched these humans shield my damaged ships with their own. They took hits meant for us. Lieutenant Hyejin led a suicide run against the Krithian flagship and somehow brought most of her people back alive. They don't fight like any species I've ever seen. Because we don't fight to survive, Hyejin said. We fight to win. There's a difference. Jiwoo pulled up another hologram. This one showed a star chart. We've been monitoring Krithian communications. They're not happy about losing at Veltara Prime. They're sending their Grand Armada, 5,000 ships under War Master Vecthon. The council chamber exploded into panicked voices. Several representatives stood up shouting. Others looked like they wanted to run. Order! Thelen shouted, banging his gavel. Order in the chamber. It took several minutes for everyone to calm down. When they did, the Korthan representative spoke again, his voice bitter. Then it's over. Vecthon is undefeated. 5,000 ships is more than our entire combined fleet. We should negotiate surrender terms now. Or, Taemin said casually, you could let us handle it. Dead silence fell over the chamber. Handle it? Thelen repeated slowly. You have 300 ships. They have 5,000. We've fought against worse odds, Sung-ho said quietly. During the AI war, we were outnumbered 100-1 at the Battle of Titan. We still won. How? Demanded the Deltan representative. By being smarter, faster, and more willing to take risks than our enemy, Hyejin explained. We don't fight fair. We fight to win, and we're very, very good at it. A message alert beeped. The communications officer rushed forward and whispered something to Theln. The old council speaker's face went pale. The Krithians have broadcast a message, he announced. They claim the human victory was a fluke. War Master Vecthon personally guarantees he will crush the human fleet and proceed with the conquest of Coalition space. Taman pulled out a communication device. May I respond? Thelon nodded slowly. Taman activated the device. His voice would be broadcast across every major communication network in the sector. War Master Vecthon, this is Commander Taman of the Earth Defense Forces. We've reviewed your service record. Very impressive. 60 battles, 60 victories. You've conquered 12 species and destroyed hundreds of fleets. You're considered the greatest military commander in Krithian history. He paused, and when he spoke again, his voice was cold as ice. But here's something you should know about humans. We're really, really good at ending winning streaks. You've never fought anyone like us. Your tactics are sound. Your warriors are skilled. Your technology is adequate. But you've never faced an enemy that evolved on a death world. You've never fought a species that spent 2 centuries at war with itself. You've never encountered warriors who genuinely don't care about the odds. Another pause. Then Taman smiled, and it wasn't a friendly smile. We'll be waiting for you at the Broken Stars. Come whenever you're ready. We'll teach you what fear feels like. He cut the transmission. The council chamber was utterly silent. You just challenged the most dangerous warrior in the galaxy to single combat, the Korthan representative said, stunned. Not single combat, Hyejin corrected. We challenged his entire fleet. There's a difference. You're insane, someone whispered. Probably, Jiwoo admitted, but we're also your best chance at survival. So here's what's going to happen. Commander Taman will coordinate the defense. We'll share our tactical data with Admiral Vorath and any other coalition commanders willing to work with us. And when the Krithians arrive, we'll show them why humanity survived the AI war. Theln looked around at his fellow council members. Many looked terrified. Some looked angry. But a few, including Admiral Vorath, looked hopeful for the first time in years. I move that we accept humanity's offer of alliance, Vorath said firmly. All in favor? The vote was closer than Jiwoo expected. Fear made people do strange things, but in the end, hope won. Barely. The motion passes, Theln announced. Commander Taemin, the coalition places its trust in you. Taemin bowed slightly. We won't let you down. As the humans left the council chamber, Sung-Ho leaned close to Taemin. Sir, 5,000 ships is a lot, even for us. I know, Taemin replied quietly. But we'll manage. We always do. Behind them, the council continued to argue. Some representatives were already preparing escape plans, convinced the humans would fail. Others were cautiously optimistic. None of them truly understood what they'd just witnessed. Humanity hadn't just returned to the galaxy. They'd arrived as something new, something forged in 2 centuries of brutal warfare. They were harder, sharper, and more dangerous than any species the galaxy. The Broken Stars was a terrible place to fight a battle. The asteroid field stretched for millions of kilometers, filled with rocks ranging from pebbles to planet-sized chunks of debris. Worse, the entire region was riddled with spatial anomalies left over from some ancient cosmic disaster. Ships that ventured too close to certain areas simply vanished, torn apart by forces nobody fully understood. No sane commander would choose to fight here, which was exactly why Commander Taemin picked it. Sung-Ho, status on the reality anchors, Taemin asked from his command chair. The chief engineer's voice came through the comm, tired but satisfied. All 300 ships are equipped and ready. The anchors will let us stabilize the spatial anomalies or make them worse, depending on what we need. I've also uploaded the exploit codes to all tactical stations. Exploit codes? Admiral Vorath asked. He was aboard the Indomitable as an observer, trying to learn human tactics. What are those? Hyejin looked up from her console with a predatory grin. During the AI war, we got really good at hacking enemy systems. The Crithians use standardized computer protocols across their fleet. We've already identified 17 vulnerabilities we can exploit. You can hack their ships during battle? Vorath asked, shocked. If we get close enough, she confirmed. We're going to get close enough. Admiral, you might want to strap in, Taman suggested. This is going to get rough. The Crithian Grand Armada appeared on sensors exactly when intelligence predicted. 5,000 ships emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the broken stars. They were organized in perfect formation, a display of military precision that had crushed dozens of species. Leading them was the flagship Dominion, a massive battleship that bristled with weapons. On its bridge stood War Master Vecthan, the undefeated legend of the Crithian military. The human fleet is inside the asteroid field, his tactical officer reported. They're using the rocks for cover. Vecthan studied the tactical display with his compound eyes. 300 ships against his 5,000. The humans were outnumbered more than 16 to 1, and they'd chosen to fight in the worst possible location. They're cowards, one of his officers sneered, hiding among the rocks like prey animals. Vecthan wasn't so sure. He'd reviewed the battle at Veltara Prime. The humans had destroyed 1,000 ships with minimal losses. They'd employed tactics he'd never seen before. They'd fought with a ferocity that reminded him of his own people. Send them a message, Vecthan ordered. Give them one chance to surrender. The communication was sent. The response came back within seconds. War Master, this is Commander Taman. We don't surrender, ever. If you want to fight, come into the field. Or you can turn around and go home. Your choice. The bridge fell silent. No one spoke to War Master Vecthan that way. No one dared. They mock us, an officer hissed. Vecthan felt his anger rising. These humans thought they could insult the Crithian Dominion, thought they could challenge him personally and survive. All ships advance into the asteroid field, he commanded. We'll crush them and their arrogance together. The Grand Armada moved forward, entering the broken stars. On the Indomitable, Hyejin watched the Crithian ships enter the field. They took the bait. All 5,000 ships are coming in. Perfect, Taman said coldly. Sung-Ho, activate the reality anchors. Let's turn this entire field into a weapon. Activating now, Sung-Ho replied. Throughout the asteroid field, 300 human ships activated their reality anchors simultaneously. The spatial anomalies that normally drifted randomly suddenly became directed, focused. They moved like predators toward the Crithian formation. The first Crithian ship hit an anomaly and simply vanished, torn into subatomic particles. Then another. Then 10 more. Evasive maneuvers, Vecthan shouted. All ships, pull back! But pulling back wasn't simple. The asteroid's limited maneuvering room, and now the anomalies were herding the Crithian ships like sheep into a pen. Human ships appeared out of nowhere, using the asteroids for cover. They fired, destroyed their targets, and vanished again before the Crithians could respond. They're using the environment against us, Vecthan's tactical officer reported. Our formation is breaking apart. Reform by squadrons, Vecthan ordered. All ships target the human vessels. Ignore the anomalies. It was the right call, but it came too late. The human fleet had already adapted. Yejin commanded a strike force of 50 ships. They dove into the middle of a Crithian squadron, moving at speeds that should have been impossible. Human ships twisted and turned through the asteroids, their pilots flying with a reckless skill that defied belief. All ships, focus fire on the lead vessel, Yejin commanded. Pour everything into their shields. The human ships opened fire simultaneously. The Crithian cruiser's shields collapsed in seconds. Kinetic rounds punched through its armor. It exploded. Next target. Move, 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 Hyejin shouted. Her squadron hit 3 more ships before the Crithians could organize a response. By then, the humans were gone, vanishing into the asteroids like ghosts. Sir, I'm reading strange activity in the Crithian command network, the communications officer on the Indomitable reported. Their ships are experiencing system failures. Sung-Ho's voice came through with barely concealed glee. The exploit codes are working. I'm uploading targeting viruses, navigation errors, and communication disruptions. They won't even know which of their systems they can trust. Admiral Vorath watched in amazement. You're sabotaging their entire fleet during battle? We're doing more than that, Taman said. We're making them afraid. Fear is just as powerful as any weapon. He was right. The Crithian formation was dissolving into chaos. Ships couldn't coordinate properly. Tactical displays showed false information. Communication channels filled with contradictory orders, and through it all human ships struck like vipers, appearing out of nowhere to kill and vanish. "We need to board their flagship," Heejin said suddenly. "Cut off the head and the body dies." "Boarding action in the middle of this?" Vorath asked, stunned. "That's suicide." "Probably," Heejin agreed cheerfully. "That's why I'm going personally. Sir, permission to take a Marine boarding team to the Dominion." Taemin met her eyes. He knew what she was asking. This was dangerous beyond measure, but if anyone could pull it off, it was her. "Granted," he said. "Bring me Vecthan, alive if possible." Heejin saluted and ran for the hangar bay. Within minutes, she was aboard a boarding craft with 20 human Marines. They were all volunteers. They all knew the odds. "Listen up," Heejin said to her team as they approached the Dominion. "We're going into the heart of enemy territory. There will be hundreds of Krithian warriors between us and their war master. The odds are terrible." One of the Marines grinned. "Just the way we like them, Lieutenant." The boarding craft latched onto the Dominion's hull. Cutting lasers burned through the armor. Hyejin was first through the hole, her weapon ready. The Krithian warriors inside were waiting. They were massive creatures, each one standing 8 feet tall with armor plating covering their bodies and multiple arms holding weapons. The battle was brutal and close. Human Marines fought with a ferocity that shocked the Krithians. They used every trick, every tactic, every dirty move they'd learned in 2 centuries of warfare. They didn't fight with honor. They fought to win. Heejin led from the front, her weapon blazing. She shot, dodged, rolled, and kept moving forward. A Krithian warrior swung a massive blade at her head. She ducked under it and put 3 rounds into his chest at point-blank range. "Keep moving," she shouted. "The bridge is this way." They fought through corridor after corridor. Human Marines fell, but the survivors kept pushing forward. Nothing stopped them. Nothing slowed them down. They reached the bridge. Hyejin blew the doors open with explosives and charged through. War Master Vecthan stood in the center, surrounded by his personal guard. He saw Hyejin and felt something he'd never experienced before in his long military career. He felt fear. "Your fleet is broken," Hyejin said, breathing hard. "Your systems are compromised. You've lost over 3,000 ships. Surrender now and we'll show mercy." "Krithians do not surrender," Vecthan said, drawing his ceremonial blade. "And I do not lose." "There's a first time for everything," Hyejin replied. They fought. Vecthan was bigger, stronger, and had decades more combat experience. But Hyejin had something he didn't. She'd been forged in a war that lasted 200 years. She'd studied every form of combat humanity had ever developed, and she fought with a style that confused him. She talked while they fought. "You know what your problem is? You're too rigid, too focused on honor and tradition. We humans, we're adaptable, we cheat, we improvise." She kicked an equipment panel at him. While he blocked it, she shot him in the shoulder. He roared in pain and rage. "We do whatever it takes to win," she continued, dodging his blade. "Because winning means our friends survive. And we care more about our friends than we care about fighting fair." They circled each other. Vecthan was bleeding now, slower than before. Hyejin had a dozen injuries but didn't seem to notice them. "You could have killed me 3 times already," Vecthan realized. "Why haven't you?" "Because Commander Taemin wants you alive," Hyejin said. "And I always complete my mission." She shot the blade out of his hands, then put her weapon against his head. "Surrender." The Coalition Council chamber had never been so crowded. Every representative was present. Nobody wanted to miss this moment. News of the Battle of Broken Stars had spread across the galaxy in days. The impossible had happened. The Krithian Grand Armada, undefeated for 50 years, had been crushed, and humanity had done it with minimal losses. Council Speaker Theln called the emergency session to order. His voice shook slightly. Whether from excitement or fear, nobody could tell. "We are here to discuss the aftermath of the battle and humanity's role in the coalition going forward." Admiral Vorath stood up. He looked different than he had a week ago. He stood straighter and there was hope in his eyes. "I move that we offer humanity joint command of all coalition military forces. I've seen them fight. I've learned their tactics. They're our best chance at finally winning this war." "That gives them enormous power," the Korthan representative objected. "How do we know they won't use it against us?" "Because if they wanted to conquer us, they could have already done it," Vorath replied sharply. "They defeated 5,000 Krithian ships with 300 of their own. They could take any world in coalition space if they wanted to." but they're not here to conquer. They're here to help. Ambassador Jiwoo stood up from the human delegation. The Admiral is correct. We're not interested in ruling anyone. We want to help rebuild. We want to share our technology. We want to make sure no more species suffer under Krithian oppression. What about the Krithians themselves? Asked the Deltan representative. What will you do with them? Before Jiwoo could answer, the chamber doors opened. Commander Taemin walked in, and beside him walked War Master Vecthan. The Krithian warrior was unarmed and wore no armor, but he still cut an impressive figure. The council chamber erupted in shocked voices. Several representatives jumped to their feet. Guards moved forward, weapons ready. Wait, Taemin said calmly. Before anyone does anything rash, hear him out. Vecthan stepped forward. For a warrior who'd been undefeated his entire life, he looked remarkably humble. Council members, I come before you not as a conqueror, but as a defeated warrior seeking to speak truth. You have killed millions of our people, someone shouted. Why should we listen to you? Because I have information that affects all of us, Vecthan replied. The reason the Krithian Dominion began this war of expansion was not conquest for its own sake. We were running from something worse that got everyone's attention. The chamber fell silent. Explain, Theln demanded. Vecthan activated a holographic display. It showed the galactic core, but there was something wrong with it. Strange energy readings pulsed from deep within. 300 years ago, our deep space probes detected something awakening in the galactic core. Something ancient. Something powerful. We didn't know what it was, but we knew it was coming. We expanded aggressively to gain the resources and strength to face it. You destroyed entire civilizations because you were afraid? Vorath asked, his voice cold with anger. Yes, Vecthan said simply. We thought if we were strong enough, numerous enough, we could fight whatever was coming. We were wrong. Nothing we did would have been enough. And now Commander Taemin has shown me that strength alone is not the answer. Unity is, Jiwoo looked at Taemin. You knew about this? Vecthan told me after the battle, Taemin confirmed. I had our long-range sensors verify his claims. He's telling the truth. Something is moving towards civilized space from the galactic core. It will reach the outer systems in approximately 1 year. The council chamber erupted again. This time the voices were panicked. Representatives shouted questions. Some demanded to see the proof. Others wanted to know why they weren't told immediately. Theln banged his gavel repeatedly. Order, we will have order. It took several minutes to restore calm. When it did, the Korthon representative spoke, his voice tight with fear. If what you say is true, we're doomed. We barely held against the Krithians. How can we fight something worse? Together, Taemin said firmly. Humans, Krithians, coalition species, all of us working together. We share technology. We share tactics. We build the largest combined fleet this galaxy has ever seen. And when that threat arrives, we show it that this galaxy is protected. Why would the Krithians help us? Someone demanded. Why would they fight for species they tried to conquer? Vecthan stepped forward again. Because I have seen what humanity represents. I fought Captain Hyjin in personal combat. She defeated me, but she did not kill me. She showed mercy when she had every right to take my life. That is not weakness. That is strength of a kind my people have never understood. If humans can show mercy to their enemies, perhaps we can learn to do the same. He turned to address the entire council. I have sent word to the Krithian Dominion. I have recommended that we join the coalition and place our forces under joint command with the humans. Not all will agree, but many will follow my lead. We Krithians respect strength, and humanity has proven their strength beyond question. This is insane, the Korthon representative muttered, but he sounded less certain than before. Admiral Vorath stood again. I call for a vote. Do we accept humanity's offer of joint military command and integrate the Krithian forces who wish to join us? The vote was not unanimous. Some species still feared both humanity and the Krithians, but the majority voted yes. Fear of the unknown threat outweighed fear of their former enemies. The motion passes, Theln announced. Commander Taemin, you are hereby promoted to Fleet Admiral and given command of all coalition military forces. Use this power wisely, Taemin bowed his head. I will. And my first order is to begin immediate fleet upgrades. Chief Engineer Sung Ho will coordinate with coalition scientists to integrate human technology into existing ships. We have 1 year to prepare. We're going to use every second of it. Over the following months, the galaxy transformed. Human colony ships arrived, carrying millions of settlers eager to reconnect with the wider universe. Human scientists worked around the clock with coalition researchers, sharing technology that would have taken centuries to develop independently. Sung-Ho coordinated the largest technological transfer in galactic history. Coalition ships were upgraded with human weapons, shields, and engines. The improvements were staggering. Ships that had struggled against Krithian vessels now exceeded them in every category. But technology wasn't enough. Taman knew that. He began a training program, bringing together warriors from dozens of species. Human Marines taught coalition soldiers tactics that seemed crazy but worked. They taught them to improvise, to adapt, to never give up no matter the odds. Captain Hye-jin ran the advanced combat school. She was a harsh instructor, pushing her students past their limits. But they learned, and they respected her for it. The Krithian warriors in particular took to human tactics with enthusiasm. They'd spent their lives studying warfare. Now they were learning a completely new style of combat from the species that had defeated them. The most surprising development was the friendship that formed between Hye-jin and Vecthan. The Krithian War Master became her assistant instructor, helping to train coalition forces. They sparred regularly, and though Hye-jin won more often than not, Vecthan was learning. "You fight with your mind as much as your body," he told her one day after a training session. "My people never understood that. We thought strength was enough." "Strength matters," Hye-jin replied, helping him to his feet. "But intelligence and adaptability matter more. That's why humans survived the AI war. We couldn't outfight the machines, so we had to outsmart them." "I am glad you showed me mercy that day on my ship," Vecthan said quietly. "I would have killed a defeated enemy. You did not. You gave me the chance to become something better." Hye-jin smiled. "That's what humans do. We see potential in others, even our enemies, sometimes especially our enemies." Meanwhile, human diplomats worked to heal the wounds between the Krithians and the species they'd conquered. It was slow, difficult work. Centuries of hatred couldn't be erased overnight. But Ambassador Jiwoo was patient and persistent. She brought former enemies together, forced them to talk, to see each other as people rather than monsters. "Reconciliation is hard," she told a group of survivors from a Krithian attack. "Nobody's asking you to forget what happened. But we need you to work with them anyway, because something worse is coming, and if we're divided when it arrives, we'll all die." It was a harsh truth, but it worked. Slowly, grudgingly, former enemies began to cooperate. 1 year after the Battle of Broken Stars, the Coalition Unified Fleet gathered in orbit around the capital world. It was the largest fleet ever assembled. 2,000 human ships, 500 Krithian vessels, 3,000 Coalition ships from 24 different species, all of them upgraded with the best technology the galaxy could produce. All of them trained in human tactics. Fleet Admiral Taman stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, looking at the assembled armada. Beside him stood Admiral Vorath, War Master Vecthan, Captain Hye-jin, and Chief Engineer Sung-Ho. Together, they represented the new order in the galaxy. "Sir, we're receiving reports from deep space sensors," the communications officer announced. "The threat from the galactic core is accelerating. It will reach the outer systems in less than a week." "Do we have any idea what we're facing?" Vorath asked.